At her best friend's birthday, she announced, "Dating down really puts life in perspective. Now I know what I don't want." Everyone laughed. I quietly got up, left $50 on the table and drove home. She spent the night texting apologies. I spent it blocking numbers. Hey viewers, huge thanks to everyone who's already subscribed. We're getting super close to 10,000. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button and help us reach that milestone. I'm 34M and work as an electrician. Good steady job, own my house, trucks paid off. Nothing fancy, but I'm comfortable. Been dating Vanessa, 30F, for about 10 months. She has some finance job downtown, makes good money, definitely more polished than me, but I thought we balanced each other out. Vanessa's friend group is what you'd expect. Young professionals, trendy restaurants, weekend wine tastings, that whole scene. I've hung out with them maybe 6 times total. They're polite to me, but there's always this underlying vibe that I don't quite fit. Last Saturday was her best friend Lauren's 29th birthday. Big dinner at some upscale steakhouse downtown, maybe 12 people total. Lauren specifically requested I come, which I thought was nice. Should have been a red flag. Thing is, I've noticed little comments from this group before. 3 months ago at a wine bar, someone made a joke about me being the token blue-collar guy. 2 months ago at a dinner party, Lauren asked if I'd ever considered advancing my career beyond manual labor. Last month, Vanessa's coworker mentioned how refreshing it was that she was exploring different types of people. I ignored it all, figured they just didn't know many tradesmen. Vanessa always seemed embarrassed by their comments and would change the subject. We get to the restaurant around 7 p.m. Nice place. Cloth napkins, wine list thicker than a phone book. I'm wearing my good shirt and jeans, everyone else is in business casual or better. The usual dynamic, but I'm used to it by now. Dinner starts fine. Good food, normal conversation about work and weekend plans. I mostly listen, contribute when someone asks me something directly. Vanessa seems relaxed, keeps including me in conversations. Around 9 p.m. we're finishing dessert, and Lauren stands up with her wine glass. Time for the birthday speech. I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight. This has been such an amazing year, and you guys are the best friends a girl could ask for. Standard birthday stuff. People are smiling, raising their glasses. I've learned so much about myself this year, especially about relationships and what I want in life. She's looking around the table, making eye contact with everyone. Vanessa, you've taught me something really important this year. Watching you has been so educational. Vanessa looks confused but pleased. What do you mean? Well, your whole dating down experiment. It's been fascinating to watch from the outside. The table goes dead quiet. I feel my stomach drop, but I keep my expression neutral. I mean, dating someone so different from your usual type, someone who doesn't match your education level or lifestyle, it really puts life in perspective, doesn't it? Vanessa's face is turning red. Lauren. No, I'm serious. It's brilliant, actually. Now you know exactly what you don't want in a partner. The whole experience has been like a cautionary tale for the rest of us. Half the table looks uncomfortable, the other half is nodding along. Some guy named Brad actually smirks. That's harsh, but probably true. Another woman adds, "It does make you appreciate compatibility more." I'm sitting there processing that I've apparently been a 10-month social experiment while her friends discuss me like I'm not here. Lauren raises her glass higher. So here's to learning experiences and knowing your worth. Thanks for showing us what settling looks like, V. Really educational stuff. Everyone's looking between me and Vanessa now. Vanessa looks mortified, but she's not saying anything to defend me. Just sitting there frozen while her friends toast my humiliation. I calmly reach into my wallet, pull out 2 20s and a 10, and place them on the table next to my plate. The entrees were around $35. This covers my meal with tip. Happy birthday, Lauren, I say, standing up. Thanks for the education. I walk out of the restaurant without hurrying. Don't make a scene, don't slam doors, just leave with whatever dignity I have left. Get to my truck and sit there for a minute. 10 months of my life. 10 months of thinking I was in a real relationship while apparently being someone's slumming experiment. The casual cruelty of having it announced like entertainment is staggering. My phone starts buzzing before I even get home. Vanessa calling. I decline. Text, Mike, please don't leave like this. Another call. Decline. Text, Lauren was drunk, she didn't mean it. Another call. I turn my phone off, get home, crack a beer, and think about the last 10 months. All those comments I brushed off. All those times I felt like a curiosity instead of a boyfriend. All those moments when I wondered if I was imagining the condescension. Turn my phone back on around 11 p.m. 19 missed calls from Vanessa. 26 text messages. Mike, I'm so sorry. Lauren is an idiot. Please don't take this seriously. She's jealous because she's single. Everyone thinks she was way out of line. Please call me back. We need to talk. I'm driving to your house. Why aren't you answering? This is ridiculous. You know I care about you. Don't throw away what we have over something stupid, Lauren said. I start blocking numbers. First, her personal phone. Then when she tries calling from what's probably a friend's phone, I block that too. Around midnight, I hear a car outside. Look through the blinds and see Vanessa's BMW parked on the street. She walks up to my door and starts knocking. Mike, I know you're in there. Please just talk to me. I don't answer. She keeps knocking for about 10 minutes, then goes back to her car. But she doesn't leave. Just sits there watching my house. She finally drives off around 12:30 a.m. This morning there are flowers on my doorstep with a note. I'm sorry. What we have is real. Please don't let Lauren ruin this. V. Threw the flowers in the trash with the note. Here's the thing. Maybe Lauren was drunk. Maybe she was bitter about being single. But dating down experiment isn't something you make up on the spot. That phrase came from somewhere. That was language they'd used before. And Vanessa's reaction told me everything. No immediate defense of me, no shutting Lauren down, just embarrassment that her friends said the quiet part out loud. I've been someone's social science project for 10 months. Someone's way of figuring out what she really wants. The charity case that made her appreciate her own standards. Not interested in being anyone's learning experience while they figure out their preferences. She got her education. Now she can find someone who matches her requirements from day one. Update 1, 48 hours later. Well, this has been an interesting couple of days. Thanks for all the comments and support. Good to know most people think being publicly called a dating experiment deserves an immediate exit. So yesterday, Vanessa escalated her damage control campaign. She showed up at my job site around lunchtime. I'm working on electrical for a new office building downtown. We were on break when my supervisor Frank comes over. Mike, there's a woman outside asking for you. Says it's urgent. I look toward the street and see Vanessa standing by the sidewalk in her work clothes. She's smart enough to stay outside the construction zone, but she's clearly waiting for me. Tell her I'm busy. She says she'll wait until your break is over. Then she's going to be waiting a while. But having my personal drama visible to my crew isn't professional. I walk over to the fence separating the site from the sidewalk. Vanessa, you can't be here. Mike, please, 5 minutes. There's nothing to discuss. Yes, there is. What Lauren said was completely wrong, and I told her so. When? Because you didn't say anything at the restaurant. I was in shock. I couldn't believe she said something so horrible. Horrible but accurate, apparently. That's not true. Mike, you know how I feel about you. I know how your friends feel about me, and I know you didn't correct them. My crew is trying not to stare, but this is getting awkward. Please just meet me for coffee after work so we can talk properly. No, then dinner tomorrow, or this weekend, anything. Vanessa, I'm not interested in being your social experiment anymore. That's not what this was. Really? Because Lauren seemed pretty confident about the whole dating down thing. Lauren doesn't understand our relationship. She understood it well enough to give a toast about it. Vanessa looks around and realizes people are watching. I'm not giving up on us, Mike. There is no us. There's just you figuring out what you don't want. I walk back to the job site, and she eventually leaves. That evening brought a new approach. Vanessa had her sister Kim call me. We'd met a couple times at family gatherings, always seemed reasonable. Mike, I heard what happened at Lauren's birthday. Word travels fast. Vanessa told me what Lauren said. I wanted you to know that was completely out of line. I appreciate that, Kim. She's been crying for 2 days. I've never seen her this upset. I'm sorry she's upset, but this isn't something I can fix. Mike, I know my sister. She genuinely cares about you. Your sister's friend called me a dating experiment and she sat there silent. She was probably in shock. She was probably embarrassed that someone said what she'd been thinking. Long pause. You really think that's how she sees you? Kim, your sister makes good money and has a graduate degree. I'm a high school graduate who works with my hands. Her friends talk about wine regions while I drink beer from the bottle. The writing was on the wall. That stuff doesn't matter if you care about someone. It mattered to Lauren, and judging by the reactions at that table, it matters to the rest of her friends too. So that's it? You're not even going to give her a chance to explain? She had her chance to explain on Saturday night. When Lauren was talking, that was her moment to shut it down. She chose silence. Kim tried convincing me for another few minutes, but I wasn't interested. Today brought Vanessa's most desperate move. Around 2 p.m. I get a call from my mom. Mike, I just got the strangest call. From who? Some girl named Vanessa. Says she's your girlfriend and you two had a fight. Ex-girlfriend. What did she want? She wanted to know if I could talk to you about giving her another chance. Said there was a misunderstanding. What did you tell her? I told her I don't get involved in your relationships, and she had no business calling me. Good. How did she even get your number? She said you'd mentioned me bringing cookies to your worksite last month, so she called around to electrical companies until she found someone who knew Frank, your supervisor. Frank gave her my number thinking it was an emergency. That's pretty determined. That's pretty desperate. Mike, what happened? I explained the whole situation. Mom listens without interrupting. So this girl's friend called you a learning experience? Pretty much. And your girlfriend didn't defend you? Nope. Then you made the right choice, honey. You deserve someone who's proud to be with you, not someone using you to figure out what they want. Thanks, Mom. Although I have to say, calling me shows she's really panicking. That girl must be realizing what she lost. This evening, I get a text from Vanessa's number. Mike, this is Lauren using V's phone. I owe you a huge apology. I almost delete it, but I'm curious what excuse she's come up with. What I said on Saturday was completely wrong, and I'm sorry. I was drunk and taking out my own relationship frustrations on you. That doesn't make it okay. I know. I talked to Vanessa yesterday, and she told me how serious you two are. She's been planning to introduce you to her parents at Christmas. If that's true, funny way of showing it. Mike, I was wrong about everything. Vanessa talks about you constantly. She's crazy about you. Then why didn't she defend me? Because she was shocked. We all were. Nobody expected me to say something that cruel. But you did say it. Yeah, I did, and I've been regretting it ever since. I think about this for a while before responding. Lauren, maybe you were drunk and frustrated, but dating down experiment isn't something you make up on the spot. You've heard that phrase before. You're right, my ex-boyfriend used it about his previous relationship. I was projecting my own situation onto yours. So, this had nothing to do with how she actually feels? Mike, Vanessa has never said anything negative about you. Ever. Then why do I feel like a zoo animal around her friends? Because we're snobs who aren't used to someone genuine. But that's our problem, not yours. Long conversation, but it got me thinking. Maybe I misread the situation. Maybe Lauren really was just being drunk and bitter. But then I remember Vanessa's face at the restaurant. The silence when she should have spoken up. Still not sure what to believe. Final update, 1 week later. Time to close this chapter. It's been a week since Lauren's birthday speech, and I've had time to think about everything that happened. After Lauren's apology text, I spent a couple days considering whether I'd overreacted. Maybe she was just drunk and bitter. Maybe Vanessa really was planning to introduce me to her parents. Maybe I jumped to conclusions. Then I started remembering other things. 2 weeks ago, Vanessa mentioned wanting to take a weekend trip to Napa Valley. When I looked up wine tour prices and said it seemed expensive, she got this look and said, "Well, I could probably cover it if you can't afford your share." At the time, I thought she was being generous. Now I realize she was already planning around my financial limitations. Last month, at her office Christmas party, her boss made some condescending comment about blue-collar workers. Vanessa didn't defend me, just changed the subject like she was embarrassed. 3 weeks ago, she suggested I might want to explore some continuing education options to expand my opportunities. When I said I liked my job, she said, "Of course, but don't you want to grow?" Those weren't isolated incidents. They were part of a pattern I'd been ignoring because I wanted the relationship to work. Wednesday, I made my decision. I called Vanessa from work. "Mike, oh my God, I'm so glad you called." "Vanessa, I've thought about everything and my answer is final. We're done." "Mike, please don't say that. I love you. You love the idea of being with someone different, but you don't love me enough to defend me when it matters." "That's not fair." I was in shock. Fair is being with someone who sees me as an equal, not a project. You are my equal. Your friend called it dating down, and you didn't disagree. That tells me how you really see this. I'll cut Lauren out of my life if that's what it takes. It's not about Lauren. It's about the fact you agreed with her assessment. I never agreed with anything. Your silence was agreement enough. She kept trying to argue, but I'd made up my mind. Thursday, she tried one last time. Showed up at my house around 7 p.m. with what looked like a prepared speech. I answered the door but didn't invite her in. "Mike, I've been thinking about this all week. You're right that I should have defended you immediately. I was wrong to stay quiet. Okay, I want to make this right. I've already told my friends that anyone who disrespects you isn't welcome in my life. Good for you. I want to prove that you matter to me, that this relationship matters. How? However you want. I'll introduce you to my parents this weekend. We can move in together, whatever shows you how serious I am." I looked at this woman I'd spent 10 months with, trying to figure out if she was genuine or just panicking. "Vanessa, can I ask you something honestly?" "Anything." Before Lauren's speech, had you ever thought of our relationship as dating down? She hesitated, just for a second, but I caught it. "No, I never thought that. Not even early on?" "Mike, that's not. Yes or no, did you ever think you were dating below your level?" Another pause. Maybe at first I wondered if we were compatible long-term because we're so different. But that changed. When did it change? Months ago. "Mike, I fell in love with you." "But you did think you were dating down initially. I thought we came from different worlds." "That's not the same thing." "It's exactly the same thing. You saw me as beneath your level and hoped it would work out anyway." "That's not how it was." "That's exactly how it was. Lauren just said out loud what you'd been thinking. Mike, please. Find someone who matches your background from the start. Someone who doesn't make you wonder if you're settling." I closed the door, and that was the end of it. That was 4 days ago. No more calls, texts, or surprise visits. Either she finally accepted reality, or she's already moved on to someone more suitable. Yesterday I had lunch with my buddy Tom, who works plumbing. Told him the whole story. "Man, I could see this coming from a mile away." "What do you mean?" "Mike, that girl never looked at you like you were her equal. She looked at you like you were interesting, but not like you belonged." "You noticed that?" "We all did. She was nice enough, but there was always this vibe like she was doing charity work." That confirmed what I already knew deep down. I'm doing fine. Better than fine, actually. No more second-guessing myself around her friends. No more feeling like I need to prove I'm worth her time. No more dating someone who saw me as a social experiment. The revenge wasn't elaborate. It was just refusing to be someone's learning experience and walking away with my dignity intact. Lauren's speech was the best thing that could have happened. It showed me exactly how Vanessa and her friends really saw me, and gave me the clarity to end things before wasting more time. Vanessa got her education about what she doesn't want. Turns out, she doesn't want someone who has enough self-respect to walk away when disrespected. Next time, I'll find someone who sees dating me as moving up, not down. My date last night ended before it even started. We walked out of the restaurant, and before getting into my car, she asked, "Is this a rental? Because if it is, I'm not wasting my time." I didn't get angry or defend myself. I just looked at her, smiled, said goodbye, and drove off alone, leaving her standing on the curb. It was a simple, quiet decision. The next morning, my phone had blown up. The screen showed 21 missed calls, all from her number, starting around midnight and getting more frequent toward dawn. There were texts, too. The first few were arrogant, demanding to know what my problem was. Then they turned confused, asking if I was okay. The last dozen were pure panic, a stream of apologies and pleas, messages begging for another chance. I read them all without feeling much of anything except tired. I made coffee and started my day. Her name is Jenna. We'd been seeing each other for about 2 months, and the red flags were there all along. I just chose to ignore them. She always commented on what other people were wearing, the cars they drove, the neighborhoods they lived in. It wasn't just observation, it was judgment, a constant sizing up of everyone around her. My friends noticed it. My sister Carla flat out told me Jenna was a user, but I figured she was just being protective. The car, for the record, is a 3-year-old Lexus. It's not flashy, but it's clean, reliable, and fully paid off. It's mine. The idea that she would mistake it for a rental, or that it would matter either way, was the final straw. It wasn't about the car. It was about the cold, transactional way she saw the world, and me. A little backstory you need to know. Jenna lives in an apartment building my family owns. It's not some big corporate holding. It's a small 6-unit building my grandfather bought decades ago. We don't manage it ourselves anymore. We have a property manager, Mr. Henderson, a retired cop who knew my grandpa. He handles everything, and he's as no-nonsense as they come. When Jenna was looking for a place, I pulled some strings. I asked Mr. Henderson to give her the friends and family rate, which knocked about $400 off the monthly market price. It was a verbal agreement, an informal favor. It wasn't written into her standard 1-year lease. After deleting all her calls and texts, I found the email Mr. Tuff Henderson sent me when she first moved in, with a scanned copy of her signed lease attached. I spent about 10 minutes reading through the standard clauses. Then I called him. "Mr. Henderson," I said. "It's Mark. Got a minute?" "For you always," he grumbled. I could hear the TV on in the background, probably a morning news show. "What's the issue? Don't tell me that girlfriend of yours is complaining about the water pressure again." "Actually, it's about her," I said. "We're no longer seeing each other. I need you to do something for me. I need you to bring her rent up to the full market rate, effective at the earliest possible date according to her lease." There was a pause. "Everything all right, kid?" His tone softened a bit. He'd known me since I was a boy. "Everything's fine," I said. "Just cleaning up a loose end. The discount was a personal favor, and it's over." "Okay," he said, all business again. "Lease says we need to give 30 days at written notice for any rent adjustments. I'll type up the notice today. It'll cite Section 4B of the rental agreement, rent and other charges, which allows for adjustments to non-fixed concessions with proper notification. It's boilerplate, but it's ironclad. I'll date it today, September 9th, and post it on her door this afternoon. Her rent goes up starting November 1st. "Thank you, Mr. Henderson. I appreciate it." "Don't mention it," he said. I never liked her anyway. Always acted like she was doing me a favor by paying her rent, which, I might add, was late twice. I filed that little detail away. He hung up, and I felt the first real sense of relief. It was a small, clean action. A problem identified, a solution executed. The rest of the day was quiet. I went to work, came home and made dinner. Around 7 p.m. my phone buzzed. It was a text from Jenna. "You've got to be kidding me. A rent increase? Seriously?" I didn't reply. A minute later, another one. "This is because of last night, isn't it? You're doing this to punish me. This is insane." Another one a few seconds later. "My landlord said the building owners authorized it. That's you. You're a vindictive child." I kept watching my movie. My phone buzzed again with a call. I let it go to voicemail. The message she left was a minute of pure, unfiltered rage. Her voice was shrill, accusing me of being petty and cruel. She said she couldn't afford the extra $400 a month and that I was trying to make her homeless. It was all very dramatic. I listened to it, then deleted it. The silence in my apartment felt good. The next phase of this mess involved our mutual friends. A guy named Dave had introduced us. We were all part of a larger group that got together for trivia nights or weekend barbecues. My phone started buzzing again on Thursday, 2 days after the date. It was a text from Dave. "Hey man, what happened with Jenna? She's blowing up the group chat saying you went psycho on her." I sighed. I knew this was coming. I texted back, "I didn't go psycho. I ended a date with her. That's it. Ask her why." Dave replied, "She's saying you abandoned her in a bad neighborhood at night and have been harassing her landlord." The lies were so predictable. Harassing her landlord? "Dave, Mr. Henderson is 70 years old and used to change my diapers. He's family, and I didn't abandon her. I left her on the curb of a 5-star restaurant in the safest part of the city after she insulted me." "What did she say?" he asked. I decided to be direct. I typed out the line word for word. "She asked me if my car was a rental, because if it was, she wasn't going to waste her time." Dave's reply took a few minutes. "Oh, wow, okay, that's bad." Jenna, meanwhile, was playing the victim in the group chat, a conversation I wasn't even in. According to a couple of screenshots another friend, Sarah, sent me, Jenna was telling everyone I had a temper, that I was unstable, and that I'd maliciously gotten her rent raised out of spite. She was painting a picture of a woman scorned by a lunatic. Sarah texted me, "Mark, you need to defend yourself. People are starting to believe her." I thought about it for a minute. Arguing in a group chat was pointless. It would just be my word against hers, and she was clearly better at playing the drama game. I needed something simple, something undeniable. I went back to my call log from Monday morning. I took a single clean screenshot. It showed the top of the call list. 21 calls, all from Jenna, between 12:08 a.m. and 7:45 a.m. It was a wall of desperation. I sent the screenshot to Sarah. "Can you add me to the chat for a minute?" She did. I waited for a moment when the conversation had a brief lull. Then I posted the screenshot. I didn't add any text, no explanation, no snarky comment, just the image. The chat went silent for a full 2 minutes. Then a message from a friend named Kevin. "Whoa, 21 missed calls?" Another from Dave. "That's not the vibe of someone who was abandoned and scared." Jenna immediately started typing, a flurry of excuses. "He's twisting things. I was worried about him. I thought something had happened. He wasn't answering his phone." But the damage was done. Her story about being a terrified victim didn't line up with the evidence of her spending hours blowing up my phone. It looked exactly like what it was. The frantic actions of someone who realized they'd overplayed their hand and lost a meal ticket. I saw the 3 little dots indicating she was typing again, probably preparing another long paragraph of lies. Before she could hit send, I typed one sentence. "I'm not going to argue. You all can believe whatever you want." Then I had Sarah remove me from the group chat again. My phone was quiet for a bit, and then a few private messages trickled in. One from Dave, "Sorry man, I should have known better. She's always been about the money." One from Kevin, "You handled that perfectly. Let me know if you need anything." The social narrative she was trying to build had crumbled with a single piece of evidence. The weekend passed quietly. I went for a hike, saw a movie, and enjoyed the peace. I figured the worst was over. The rent was raised, the friend group knew the truth. I assumed she would just fade out of my life. I was wrong. The next front was going to be my family. There was one more loose end I hadn't tied up, a personal item. About a month into our relationship, we'd gone to a charity gala. I had let her borrow a watch. It wasn't just any watch, it was my grandmother's. It was a vintage piece, elegant and understated, and had huge sentimental value. I wasn't in the habit of loaning out family heirlooms, but she had been so convincing, talking about how she had the perfect dress, but no accessories that would do it justice. I'd stupidly relented. I had texted her about it once before the big blow-up, and she'd been evasive. "Oh, it's in my jewelry box. I'll get it to you next time I see you," she'd said. Now, next time was never going to happen. I sent her a polite, firm text on Monday. "Jenna, I need to get my grandmother's watch back. Please let me know when is a good time for me to stop by and pick it up this week." Her reply came an hour later. "I'm really busy with work, and honestly, I don't feel comfortable seeing you right now. You've been very hostile." I wasn't going to play this game. "I'm not asking for a meeting. I'm retrieving my property. Just leave it with the doorman or I can swing by when you're home. It will take 5 minutes." "I'm not sure where it is," she texted back. "I think I might have misplaced it." That text sent a cold spike of anger through me. Misplaced it. A one-of-a-kind family heirloom. I knew she was lying. It was a power play, one last thing she held over me. I wasn't going to let her have it. This was where my sister came in. I called Carla and explained the situation. She was furious on my behalf. I told you, Mark. I told you she was trash, she said. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We are not asking anymore. We're going over there. She won't let me in, I said. She'll let us in, Carla said, her voice grim. She won't want the neighbors to see her refusing to let your sister in, especially when we're being perfectly polite. We're not going to be aggressive. We're going to be calm, reasonable, and completely immovable. Carla was always better at confrontations than I was. She had a spine of steel. Before we went, she did something I hadn't even thought of. She scrolled through Jenna's social media, and there it was. A photo from just last weekend, her out to brunch with some friends. On her wrist, clear as day, was my grandmother's watch. Carla saved the photo to her phone, noting the date it was posted. Then she went a step further. My mother had all the old family jewelry appraised for insurance purposes years ago. Carla called her, and within an hour, Mom had emailed over the scanned appraisal document for the watch. It included a detailed description, the serial number, and its replacement value, which was close to $5,000. It also clearly stated its origin as part of my grandmother's estate. Carla printed out the social media photo and a copy of the appraisal. Okay, she said, holding the papers. Now we have leverage. The next evening, we drove to Jenna's apartment building, my building. I buzzed her unit from the lobby. Who is it? Her voice crackled through the speaker. It's Mark, and my sister Carla, I said calmly. We're here for the watch, we're not leaving without it. There was a long silence. I told you I don't know where it is. Buzz us in, Jenna, Carla said, her voice sharp and clear. Or we can have this conversation in the lobby. I'm sure Mr. Henderson wouldn't mind listening in. The mention of Mr. Henderson did the trick. The lock buzzed and we went up. She opened the door just a crack, wearing sweatpants and a scowl. What do you want? The watch, Jenna, I said, keeping my voice level. Now. I can't find it, she repeated, her eyes darting between me and Carla. I'll look for it this weekend. Carla didn't say a word. She just held up her phone, displaying the photo of Jenna wearing the watch at brunch 3 days ago. Jenna's face went pale. That doesn't prove anything, she stammered. Carla then held up the printed insurance appraisal. She pointed to the line item describing the watch. This proves it's a family heirloom with a significant monetary value. We have a photo of you wearing it after you claimed you couldn't find it. This is now moving beyond a simple disagreement. This is theft. Jenna stared at the paper, then at Carla's unblinking face. The fight just drained out of her. She knew she was cornered. There were no friends here to lie to, no group chat to manipulate. Just two people, armed with facts, standing in her hallway. She closed the door without a word. We waited. A minute later, the door opened again. She thrust the watch into my hand, her expression a mask of fury and humiliation. Happy now? She hissed. Yes, I said. I checked the clasp, made sure it was undamaged, and slipped it into my pocket. Thank you. We turned and walked away. We didn't say another word. As we walked down the hall toward the elevator, I could feel her watching us. I didn't look back. The weight of the watch in my pocket was a huge relief. That was the last personal connection, the last piece of leverage she had. And now, it was gone. The final chapter of this whole stupid saga happened about a month later. Her lease was up at the end of October, and Mr. Henderson had already informed me that she had not renewed. He told me she'd tried to argue with him about the rent increase, even threatened to sue, but he just calmly pointed to the signed lease agreement and told her he was acting on the owner's instructions and following the contract she'd signed. There was nothing she could do. He'd already found a new tenant, a young couple, who were happy to pay the full market rate. I hadn't heard from her or seen her since the night we retrieved the watch. The friend group had fractured a bit. A couple of people sided with her, but most just went quiet, not wanting to be involved. Dave and a few others made a point to reach out to me, and we started hanging out separately, which was fine by me. One Saturday afternoon, I was at a local coffee shop, catching up on some reading. I was sitting at a small table by the window. As I looked up, I saw a familiar car pull into a parking spot out front. It was a brand new Mercedes, the kind Jenna always used to point out. She was in the passenger seat. A man who looked to be in his late 50s got out of the driver's side. He was well-dressed but looked annoyed. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but their body language told the whole story. He was gesturing impatiently at her. She was arguing, her face tight with frustration. He said something that made her flinch, then he pointed a finger at her, shook his head, and walked into the bank next to the coffee shop, leaving her in the car. Jenna just sat there, staring straight ahead, her perfect posture rigid with anger. For a moment I felt a flicker of something, but it wasn't pity. It was just a distant, clinical observation. She'd found a new target, a wealthier one, but the dynamic was the same. Her happiness was entirely dependent on someone else's wallet, and it was a precarious, stressful way to live. She looked trapped. I finished my coffee, paid my bill, and walked out to the parking lot. I had to walk right past the Mercedes to get to my car. She was looking down at her phone now, probably scrolling, and didn't see me. I got into my Lexus, the same car that started this whole thing. It felt comfortable, familiar. It was mine. I started the engine, pulled out of the parking spot, and drove away. I didn't look in the rearview mirror. There was nothing back there I needed to see. At her birthday party, my girlfriend got tipsy, clinked her glass, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "This is my boyfriend, pays the bills, buys the gifts, follows me around like a dog, but still thinks I'm actually in love with him." Her friends laughed. When I got up to leave, she smirked and said, "Don't be so sensitive. You know you'll come crawling back anyway." I didn't say a word, just walked out. This morning, her mom showed up at my door, begging me to call her back. Throwaway for obvious reasons. Those who know me would recognize this story in a heartbeat. Some men learn about betrayal slowly. A text message here, lipstick on a collar there. The lucky ones never learn at all. Me? I got a public announcement with witnesses. Primetime television couldn't have scripted it better. I'm 38, been with Jennifer, 34, for 3 years. I'm a professional chef with my own restaurant that's finally turning a profit after years of 80-hour weeks and pouring every penny I had into it. Nothing fancy, just solid food in a neighborhood spot that now has regulars and weekend reservations, booked a month out. I work hard, come home with burns on my arms and smelling like the kitchen, and sleep like the dead. Simple life, and I liked it that way. Jennifer is an architect at a prestigious firm, always dressed impeccably, perfect nails, the kind of woman who turns heads when she walks into a room. When we first met at my buddy's wedding, I couldn't believe she gave me the time of day. 3 dates in, I was hooked. 3 months in, she had a key to my place. Looking back, red flags were flapping like they were caught in a hurricane, but I was too blinded by what I thought was love to notice. We never officially moved in together. She kept her apartment while spending most nights at my house. She always said she needed her own space for when she had to work late or needed me time. I respected that, even though I was paying for both places. Her birthday was last Saturday. I'd spent weeks planning it. Booked the private room at Vincenzo's, her favorite Italian place, not mine. I could have hosted at my restaurant, but she always complained about mixing business with pleasure. I invited 20 of her closest friends, arranged for a custom cake with that fancy gold leaf shit she likes. Dropped $3,000 easy, but hey, that's what you do for someone you love, right? The dinner was going well. Good food, plenty of wine flowing, everyone laughing. Jennifer had been knocking back Aperol spritzes since we arrived. Not sloppy drunk, but definitely looser than usual. She was sitting at the head of the table, me to her right. Her work friends Megan and Taylor were there, a couple guys from her yoga class, her sister Chloe, some college buddies. Then came time for toasts. Her best friend Jade went first, telling some story about their college spring break. I went next, kept it simple, told her I loved her and was looking forward to many more birthdays together. People clinked glasses, sipped their wine. That's when Jennifer stood up, glass in hand. I thought she was going to thank everyone for coming. Instead, she looked around the table with this little smirk, then put her hand on my shoulder. "This is my boyfriend, Reed," she announced, squeezing my shoulder a little too hard. "He pays the bills, buys the gifts, follows me around like a dog." She paused for effect, scanning the room, "and still thinks I'm actually in love with him." The table went quiet for about 2 seconds. Then her friends, her fucking friends, started laughing. Not everyone. Her sister looked mortified, but enough people laughed that it felt like the room was closing in on me. I must have had a look on my face because Jennifer rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, it's a joke," she said. but there was no warmth in it. I set my napkin on the table and stood up. Didn't say a word, just grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair. "Where are you going?" she asked, annoyed. Like I was ruining her night. "Home," I said quietly. Didn't want to cause a scene, just needed to get out of there before I said something I'd regret. That's when she hit me with it, loud enough for the entire table to hear. "Don't be so sensitive, you know you'll come crawling back anyway." She said it with such certainty, such dismissiveness, like it was established fact. Like I was some trained pet who'd always return no matter how badly I was treated. I didn't say a word, just walked out, drove home in silence. No radio, no calls, just the sound of tires on asphalt and my own thoughts spinning like a hurricane. What the hell had just happened? More importantly, why wasn't I more surprised? When I got home to my house, not huge but mine, with a decent backyard and the deck I built last summer, I poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon and sat outside. 3 years of memories suddenly looked different in retrospect. The constant comments about how my hands were rough, how I always smelled like food, how she could never take me to meet certain friends because I wouldn't get their conversations. The way she'd roll her eyes when I talked about the restaurant. The jokes about finding someone more sophisticated, the mysterious late nights at the office. I wasn't an idiot. I knew she loved the lifestyle my growing success provided more than she loved me. But I guess I thought that would evolve into something real over time. What a fucking joke. My phone blew up for a while. Texts from Jennifer ranging from angry, "way to ruin my birthday," to defensive, "it was just a joke," to pleading, "baby please come back." I silenced the notifications, but didn't block her number. Wanted to keep a record of everything in case things escalated. Sunday morning, I woke up with clarity I hadn't felt in years. I gathered everything of Jennifer's in my house. Clothes, makeup, jewelry, the stupid exercise bike she bought and used twice, and packed it all neatly in boxes. Took me about 3 hours. I placed her tea on top of one box and loaded everything into my truck. I drove to her apartment. She'd given me a key when we started dating, and I still used it occasionally to drop things off or wait for her when she was running late. I let myself in and stacked all the boxes in her living room. Then I wrote a short note. "Consider this me not crawling back. Your rent is paid through the end of the month. After that, you're on your own." Left my tea on top of the note and walked out. By Sunday afternoon, my phone was blowing up again. Jennifer must have gone home and found the boxes. I knew because she texted me a photo of them stacked in her living room with the caption, "Really? This is how you're handling things?" The text turned frantic. Calls every 5 minutes. I didn't answer. Instead, I called my lawyer, explained the situation, and asked him to draft something officially ending any financial obligations I had toward her. Called my bank and removed her as an authorized user on my credit card. Changed the passwords on all my streaming services. I'll admit Sunday night was rough. I've built my life around being a reliable guy. The one who shows up, who follows through. Walking away from a 3-year relationship, even a deeply flawed one, felt like failure. But every time I wavered, I heard her voice in my head. "You know you'll come crawling back anyway." Like hell I would. Monday morning, I went to work as usual. Buried myself in prep work, menu planning, staff scheduling. Told my sous chef Marcus what had happened. He nodded, said, "She never deserved you, boss," and that was that. No drama, no pity party. Just understanding and moving forward. This is why I prefer the company of people who work in kitchens. There's an honesty there that I've always respected. Monday night, Jennifer escalated. Started posting on social media about how someone was having a midlife crisis and throwing away the best thing that ever happened to him. Her friends commented with support, calling me toxic and immature. I blocked them all on social media, but still kept her number unblocked on my phone, just documenting everything without responding. Tuesday was more of the same, except she started using mutual friends as intermediaries. "Jennifer's really upset, man," texted my buddy Chris. "Maybe hear her out?" I explained what happened. He didn't text again. This morning, Wednesday, things took a turn I didn't expect. I was getting ready for work when someone knocked on my door. I opened it to find Jennifer's mother, Susan, standing there looking distraught. Susan's always been kind to me, treated me like the son she never had. She's the one who first told me my beef bourguignon was the best she'd ever tasted. Seeing her on my doorstep, eyes red-rimmed from crying, nearly broke my resolve. "Reed," she said, her voice cracking. "Please call Jennifer back. She hasn't eaten in 2 days. She's a mess." I invited Susan in, made her some coffee, and gently explained what had happened at the birthday dinner. Her face fell as I spoke. She said, "You just walked out without reason," she whispered, looking down at her coffee cup, "that you'd been acting strange for weeks and then just left." I wasn't surprised Jennifer had spun the story. She was never one to take responsibility. "Susan," I said, "I cared about your daughter. Probably still do if I'm honest. But I can't be with someone who has such little respect for me, who would humiliate me in front of her friends and then expect me to crawl back." Susan nodded slowly. "I understand," she said finally. "I raised her better than this. I'm so sorry, Reed." She left soon after, hugging me tightly at the door. As I watched her drive away, I felt a weight lift. Even if Jennifer never acknowledges what she did, at least someone in her family knows the truth. It's now evening on Wednesday as I write this. Jennifer has been escalating all day. She's had her sister call my brother, her yoga instructor email my sous chef, and based on my home security camera installed after a break-in last year, she drove by my house twice. I haven't responded to anyone. The silence feels powerful in a way I never expected. Tonight, I've been sitting here thinking about dignity, about self-respect, about the difference between being reliable and being a doormat. For too long, I confused the two. Not anymore. To anyone who's been in my shoes, someone who gives and gives until there's nothing left, who accepts scraps of affection as if they're feasts, I hope you find the strength to walk away. It hurts like hell at first, but there's peace on the other side. Trust me on this. I don't know what tomorrow will bring. Maybe more flying monkeys sent by Jennifer, maybe the beginning of healing. Either way, one thing's certain, I won't be crawling back. Not today. Not ever. Update. 3 days later. Quick update since a lot of you asked. Yes, Jennifer is still trying to contact me. Her tactics have shifted from angry to remorseful. Yesterday she sent a handwritten letter delivered by courier. Who does that anymore? I read it. She claims she started therapy and realizes she has attachment issues stemming from childhood trauma. Maybe that's true, but it's not my problem to fix. Several people asked about financials. Yes, I've protected myself. My lawyer sent her an official letter outlining the end of any financial support. The apartment lease is in her name only, though I was voluntarily paying it as a gesture of support. The car is mine. She has her own. I've documented everything in case she tries to claim we were common law married or some shit. Her sister Chloe actually reached out to apologize for Jennifer's behavior. Said she was mortified by what happened at the birthday dinner. Apparently, she's been telling Jennifer for years that she treats me poorly. Good to know someone in her circle has a conscience. Oh, and for those asking about revenge, living well is my only plan. Started hitting the gym again, reconnected with friends I'd neglected, even signed up for a specialized pastry course I've been putting off. Turns out having an extra $3,000 a month, what I was spending on Jennifer, opens up a lot of possibilities. We'll update again if anything significant happens. But honestly, I'm hoping this is the last chapter in this particular story. Final update, 2 weeks later. This is probably my last update on this situation, as things have mostly settled down and I'm ready to move forward. The biggest development, Susan, Jennifer's mom, invited me to lunch last weekend. I was hesitant, but agreed. She apologized again for her daughter's behavior, and then revealed something I hadn't known. Jennifer has a pattern of this. Her last 3 relationships ended similarly, with her taking advantage of successful men and then acting shocked when they eventually had enough. "I love my daughter," Susan said, "but she needs help I can't give her." Turns out Susan has been encouraging Jennifer to get therapy for years. The letter about starting therapy was just another manipulation tactic. Jennifer finally stopped trying to contact me after her mother's intervention. According to Susan, she's now telling people I was emotionally unavailable and she had to end things for her mental health. Classic rewriting of history. But I honestly don't care anymore. To the guy who commented that I should have called her out publicly at the dinner instead of walking away. Maybe you're right. But dignity isn't about creating drama. It's about knowing when to refuse to participate in it. I walked away because that's what felt right to me. I've been on 2 dates with a woman I met at my pastry class. Taking it extremely slow, but it's nice to talk to someone who actually asks questions about my day and seems interested in the answers. After years of one-sided conversations with Jennifer, it's refreshing. The best part of all this? I sleep better. No more walking on eggshells. No more checking my account balances with dread. No more pretending to be someone I'm not to please someone who was never pleased. Some of you called me a king for how I handled this. I don't know about that. I'm just a guy who finally decided his self-respect was non-negotiable. If that makes me royalty, then I guess I'll take the crown. Thanks again for all the support. It helped more than you know. At game night, my girlfriend picked her work husband as her partner, joking, "We've got better chemistry anyway." The whole room laughed at me, not with me, but I just smiled because I knew something she didn't. The next morning, I sent a very carefully worded email to her company's human resources department, complete with the screenshots from their last business trip. The game we were playing was one of those couple-based trivia games, the kind designed to create awkward moments. My girlfriend, Jenna, and I were hosting. We had about 8 people over, a mix of our mutual friends. And of course, she had invited Mark. He was her work husband, a term that always made my skin crawl. He was smug, a little too handsome in a generic way, and he always looked at me like I was a temporary inconvenience. I'd told Jenna I didn't like him, that the whole work husband thing was disrespectful. She just laughed it off, telling me I was being insecure and that their relationship was completely professional. She said their dynamic was a running joke at the office and that it helped them navigate the corporate politics of their firm. We were 2 rounds into the game, and my team with Jenna was actually winning. Then came the partner swap round. The host, which was me, was supposed to assign new partners for a lightning round. Before I could even open my mouth, Jenna stood up, holding her glass of wine. She pointed right at Mark. "I'm picking him," she announced to the room. "We've got better chemistry anyway." A few people chuckled nervously, but most of them roared with laughter. It was the kind of laugh that feeds on someone else's discomfort. They were all in on the joke, and the joke was me. Mark just leaned back on the sofa, arms spread wide, with a grin that said, "What can I say? The lady wants me." I saw our friend Chloe give me a sympathetic wince, but everyone else was playing along. I looked at Jenna, who was already walking over to sit next to Mark, a triumphant little smirk on her face. The hurt was there, a sharp jab to the ribs, but it was quickly replaced by a cold, quiet calm. I just smiled. A slow, easy smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "All right then," I said, keeping my voice light. "Team chemistry, it is. Let's see what you've got." They won the round, of course. They were annoyingly in sync, finishing each other's sentences about pop culture and history. Every correct answer was punctuated with a high five that lingered a little too long or a shared knowing glance. They were performing for an audience, and I was the chump they were putting on a show for. The rest of the night was a blur of me playing the gracious host while my insides felt like they were slowly turning to ice. When it was all over and people were starting to leave, Jenna was still buzzing. She gave me a quick, dismissive kiss on the cheek. "Wasn't that fun?" she asked, not waiting for an answer. She and Mark had spent the last hour in the corner, heads close together, scrolling on his phone and laughing. After everyone was gone, I cleaned up the kitchen. Jenna went to the bedroom, and I could hear her on the phone, her voice low and giggling. I knew she was talking to him. This wasn't new. For the past 6 months, her life had become more and more entangled with Mark's. It started with late nights at the office, then moved to weekend calls to strategize for the upcoming week. 2 weeks ago, they had gone on a 3-day business trip together for a conference. When she came back, she was different. More distant. More dismissive of me. She talked endlessly about the inside jokes from the trip, the great presentation they'd given, the fun they'd had at the hotel bar. I had a gnawing suspicion that it was more than just professional bonding, but I had no proof. Just a gut feeling and her increasingly disrespectful behavior. That game night wasn't a mistake or a slip of the tongue. It was a statement. She was showing me and all our friends where I stood. And as I wiped down the last of the counters, I decided I was finally going to listen. I finished cleaning and went into our home office. Sitting on the bookshelf was her old tablet. She hadn't used it in months, ever since she got a new one from work. I had plugged it in a few days ago, thinking I might use it to stream some music. I picked it up. It was still logged into all her accounts, her personal email, her social media. I had never invaded her privacy before, not once in our 3 years together. But that public joke, that laughing dismissal of our relationship, had severed any obligation I felt to extend that courtesy. I told myself I was just looking for confirmation of what I already knew. I opened her private Instagram, the one she kept for a small circle of friends, not the polished one she used for a wider audience. And there it was. Proof. Far worse than I could have imagined. It wasn't just a simple affair. It was a gallery of their trip. Photos of them holding hands at dinner, a picture of 2 champagne glasses clinking together with the city lights in the background, captioned, "Celebrating a successful merger." Another one, a selfie of them at a fancy spa, wrapped in hotel robes, with the caption, "Making the most of this work trip, #conference perks." My blood ran cold. The spa, the champagne, the fancy dinner. I knew for a fact that their company had a strict policy on travel expenses. Employees were given a per diem and a list of approved vendors. That spa was definitely not on the list. I scrolled further. I found a picture of a receipt from the dinner. A fancy steakhouse. It was over $400. Her comment underneath to a friend was, "Don't worry, we just called it a client meeting. Mark is a genius with expense reports." So it wasn't just cheating, it was fraud. They were stealing from their company and bragging about it online to their friends. I took my phone and carefully, methodically, took pictures of every single incriminating post. The photos, the captions, the comments, the receipts. I screenshotted everything. Then I put the tablet back on the shelf, exactly where I found it. I went to the spare bedroom and slept on the couch. I didn't feel rage. I felt a strange sense of focus. She had handed me the gun, the bullets, and a signed confession. The next morning, I was up before she was. I made coffee, sat down at my desk, and composed an email. The recipient was the head of human resources at her company, a woman whose name I remembered from a company newsletter Jenna had left on the counter. I knew their company, a major player in the tech industry, had just spent the last quarter in the news for an executive embezzlement scandal. They were on a massive public relations campaign about their new zero-tolerance policy on ethical violations. I knew they would have to take any credible report of fraud seriously and act swiftly to avoid more bad press. The subject line was simple, regarding the code of conduct and expense policy. The email was polite, professional, and devastating. I introduced myself as Jenna's long-term partner. I explained that I had recently become aware of a potential violation of company policy that I felt obligated to report. I attached the screenshots, all of them. The spa photo, the receipt, her comment about Mark being a genius with expense reports. I wrote that I was deeply concerned that this behavior might reflect poorly on the company's integrity. I ended it by saying I was available to provide more information if needed. I hit send at 8:15 a.m. Jenna came out of the bedroom around 9, looking pleased with herself. She was still riding the high from the night before. "Morning," she said, grabbing a coffee mug. "I'm still laughing about last night. You were such a good sport about it." I didn't answer. I just sipped my coffee and looked at my computer screen. Around 10:30 a.m., I got a text from a friend who works at the same company, in a different department. "What the hell is going on in strategy? Rumor is 2 people are getting canned." I didn't reply. The news started to trickle out. By noon, it was confirmed. Another text from my friend read, "Jenna and Mark both walked out by security an hour ago. Laptops, badges, everything confiscated. Holy crap." They had both been fired. With the company already under a microscope for financial misconduct, my evidence was undeniable, and they had no choice but to make an example of them. It was an immediate termination offense. No warning, no severance. Jenna got home around 1 in the afternoon. I knew the exact moment she arrived because I heard her key slam into the lock, followed by the door flying open. She was pale, her eyes wild with a mixture of panic and fury. She was holding a cardboard box with a few sad-looking desk plants and a framed picture. "You!" she screamed, pointing a shaking finger at me. "You did this? How could you?" I kept my voice calm. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me," she shrieked. "Mark and I were fired. Fired. They said an anonymous tip came in about our trip. It had to be you. You're the only one who would do something so hateful." I just looked at her. "So you're saying there was something on that trip to report? Something that would get you fired?" Her face crumpled. She knew she had no ground to stand on. The anger dissolved into desperate tears. "It was a mistake. We were just having fun. You've ruined my life. My career is over." "You did that," I said, my voice still quiet. "You and Mark, you cheated and you stole from your company. I just made sure the right people were aware of it. Now you need to pack your things." She stopped crying and a look of pure, unadulterated arrogance washed over her face. She actually scoffed, a short, sharp, dismissive sound. "Pack my things? Don't be ridiculous. I'm not going anywhere, and even if I was, I wouldn't be in trouble for long." She crossed her arms, a smug little smile returning. "He'll take me in." "Will he?" I asked. "Of course he will," she said, brimming with confidence. "Unlike you, he actually cares about me. We have a real connection. We have chemistry." She pulled out her phone and dialed his number, putting it on speakerphone to make a point. She wanted me to hear him ride to her rescue. He answered on the second ring, his voice tight with panic. "Jenna? What the hell is going on? My key card for the garage isn't working." "They fired us, Mark," she said, her voice dropping into a dramatic damsel in distress tone. "They fired us both. That monster reported us." There was a long silence on his end. "Reported us for what?" he asked, his voice suddenly wary. "The trip, the expenses. I don't know. Listen, it doesn't matter. I need you to come get me. He's kicking me out." Another pause, longer this time. When he finally spoke, his voice was cold. "How would he know about the expenses, Jenna? The only way he would know is if he saw those stupid pictures you posted. I told you to keep that stuff off the internet." "I did," she insisted. "It was on my private account." "Well, clearly not private enough," he snapped. "My whole career is down the drain because you couldn't resist showing off. Do you have any idea how much trouble I'm in?" "We're in, Mark," she corrected him. "We're in this together. But it's okay, we have each other. I'll just come stay with you until we figure this out." I could almost hear the blood drain from his face through the phone. "Stay with me? Are you insane? Jenna, my wife is going to kill me. She already suspects something is going on. If I show up with you and your luggage, my life is over. Not just my career, everything." Jenna's smug expression faltered. Your wife? You told me you were separated. You said the divorce was almost final." "Well, it's not," he shot back, "and she's not going to be understanding about me getting fired for taking my mistress on a spa day on the company's dime. I can't help you, Jenna. You're on your own. Don't call me again." He hung up. The silence in the room was deafening. Jenna stood there, phone in her hand, her face a mask of disbelief. The foundation of her grand plan, the safety net she was so sure of, had just evaporated. She looked at me, her eyes wide with a dawning horror. The reality of her situation was finally, truly hitting her. Jobless, homeless, and the man she had thrown it all away for had just revealed he was a lying, married fraudster who wanted nothing to do with her. I didn't say a word. I just pointed to the empty cardboard box she had brought home from her office. "You should probably start packing now," I said. "You have a lot more to fit in there than you thought." She just stared at me for a moment, then sank onto the floor and started to sob. Not the fake, manipulative tears from before, but the ugly, gasping sobs of someone who has lost everything and knows it's entirely their own fault. I walked to the spare room, closed the door, and started gathering the few things of mine that were in the main bedroom. I left her there to pack up the remnants of the life she had so casually destroyed. It took her hours. I could hear her moving around the apartment, punctuated by bouts of crying and the occasional muffled, furious curse. I stayed out of her way. Around 6 o'clock, she was finally done. 3 suitcases and 4 boxes were piled by the door. She looked exhausted and broken. She wouldn't look at me. "Where will you go?" I asked, not out of sympathy, but out of a practical need to know she was physically leaving my property. My sisters, she mumbled, staring at the floor. For now. Okay, I said. I watched as she struggled to drag the first suitcase out the door. She didn't ask for help, and I didn't offer it. It was a pathetic, slow-motion exit. When she was finally gone, the apartment felt instantly lighter. The lingering tension of the last few months had vanished with her. I closed the door, locked the deadbolt, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe again. The fallout with our friend group was swift. Chloe, the one who had given me the sympathetic look at game night, texted me immediately. Heard what happened. Good for you. She's been pulling this crap for months. A few others reached out with similar messages. The ones who had laughed the loudest at the joke were suddenly silent. They didn't want to be associated with the drama, especially not when it involved cheating and corporate fraud. Jenna had not only lost her job and her affair partner, but she had also torched her social circle in the process. I spent the next few hours reclaiming my space. I changed the sheets on the bed, cleared her stuff out of the bathroom, and deleted her profile from the smart TV. It was a cleansing ritual. I ordered a pizza, cracked open a beer, and sat on my couch in the glorious, uncomplicated silence of my own home. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt a profound sense of relief. Then, around 11 that night, my phone buzzed. It was a text from her. I almost deleted it without reading, but my curiosity got the better of me. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a plea for forgiveness. It was pure, unfiltered entitlement. A final glimpse into the mind of someone who simply could not comprehend the concept of consequences. The text read, "You owe me. I spent 3 years of my life on you. I decorated this apartment. You are going to have to pay for me to get a new place and support me until I find a new job. My sister is a paralegal and she says I have rights." I read it twice. Not a single word of remorse. Just demands. After everything she had done, she still saw herself as the victim, and me as the person obligated to fix the mess she had made. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel anything at all. I blocked her number and went to bed. Best sleep of my life. At a wedding we attended, my wife danced with her male best friend all night while ignoring me. When someone asked if she was married, she said, "Not really. It doesn't count when he's boring." They laughed. I just watched. The next morning, she woke up alone. So my marriage ended last Saturday night. There was no big fight, no yelling, no plates being thrown. It ended with a laugh. Her laugh. A fake, nasty little sound in a fancy hotel ballroom that told me everything I needed to know. Let's back up. I'm Tom. My wife, well, ex-wife now I guess, is Olivia. We were married for 4 years. On the surface, things probably looked fine. Good house, nice cars, the whole deal. But underneath, the foundation was shot. I've known it for about a year. I'm a pretty observant guy. I notice things. And what I noticed was Ben. Ben is her male best friend, her brother. For the first few years, I tried to be the cool, trusting husband. I told myself that their history was just that, history. But in the last year, after we got married, something changed in her. The sense of entitlement grew, and her respect for me seemed to shrink in direct proportion. The red flags went from small, fluttering things in the distance to giant, flapping banners right in my face. It was the constant texting. The phone angled away from me whenever he messaged. It was the way she'd bring him up in every conversation, comparing my choices to what Ben would have done. The moment I knew I had to start planning my exit was about 8 months ago. We were planning a trip for our anniversary. I had spent weeks researching a quiet cabin in the mountains, the kind of peaceful getaway I knew we both used to love. When I showed her the pictures, she seemed underwhelmed. The next day, she came to me with a new plan. Ben was saying we should go to that new resort on the coast instead. It's supposed to be amazing. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a decision she had already made with him. My plans were irrelevant. We went to the resort. I spent 4 days watching her text him pictures of the view. That's when I realized I wasn't being a cool husband. I was being a placeholder, a provider, the boring, reliable infrastructure for the exciting life she was living with other people. So I stopped being a doormat. I just did it quietly. I'm not the type to make big, dramatic scenes. That's her arena. I'm a planner. I started making preparations. The first call was to a lawyer, A sharp guy my friend recommended. I had a 90-minute consultation just to understand my rights and liabilities. The house was in my name, bought and paid for before I met her. That was the most important thing. He advised me on how to protect my other assets. The next day, I started moving my money. I opened a new set of bank accounts at a different bank. I began diverting most of my income there, leaving just enough in our shared accounts to keep up appearances. I was building an escape route, brick by brick. I knew I was going to need it. I just didn't know when. The wedding last Saturday was the final straw. It was for her friend from college. A huge, expensive party. Olivia was in heaven. She loves a crowd, an audience. She had bought a new dress for the occasion, one that she casually mentioned was a bit pricey, and put on our joint card. She spent the entire night attached to Ben's arm, laughing loudly, making a spectacle of themselves on the dance floor. She basically ignored me, and I let her. I wasn't there to fight for her attention. I was there to observe, to gather the final pieces of data I needed. I had a feeling the night was going to be important. Around 10, I was standing near the bar, talking to the groom's uncle. She was with Ben and a few other people I didn't know. I saw some woman point at Olivia's wedding ring and ask if she and Ben were married. Instead of just saying no and pointing to her actual husband standing 20 feet away, Olivia put on a show. She laughed this high, fake laugh and said, "Oh, I'm married, but not to Ben, unfortunately." Then she leaned in, all conspiratorial, and said, "Not really anyway. It doesn't count when he's boring." The group laughed, a polite but definitely condescending laugh. And that was it. No anger, no big explosion in my chest. Just a quiet, cold feeling of absolute certainty. It was the confirmation I had been waiting for. This wasn't a marriage, it was a joke, and I was the punchline. I didn't say a word. I just gave her a little nod from across the room. A nod that she probably interpreted as me being attentive. But it wasn't. It was a nod of acknowledgement. A final message received. I turned around, walked out of that ballroom without looking back, and went up to our hotel room. The party was over. My marriage was over. It was time to execute the plan. Update 1. The first thing I did in that hotel room was take off my wedding ring. I set it on the dresser and just looked at it for a minute. It felt like taking off a costume. Then I packed my bag. Every movement was calm, deliberate. I wasn't acting on emotion. I was following a procedure I had been mentally rehearsing for months. I was a man executing a plan, nothing more. I checked out of the hotel, got my car, and drove home. No music, just silence. The 40-minute drive was the most peaceful I had felt in a long time. The mental weight of pretending, of swallowing the constant low-grade disrespect, was finally gone. I got to the house around 11:30. My house. The first thing on my checklist was to secure the property. I walked straight to the smart home control panel in the kitchen. I went into the user settings and found her profile. 2 clicks. Deleted. Her access code was gone. Her key fob was deactivated. I went to the garage and manually changed the entry code. In the space of about 5 minutes, she was a stranger to my home, physically locked out. Next, I cut off the money. I sat down at my desk and logged into our joint bank account. It was the account I kept funded for her monthly spending, her car payment, her shopping, her lunches with friends. The balance was a few $1,000s. I transferred every penny to my personal account. Then I logged into my main credit card account. She had a supplementary card that she used as her own personal expense account. I went through the recent charges, the dress for the wedding, a spa day with Ben's sister, a new set of luggage for a girls' trip she was planning. I reported her card as stolen. The account was frozen instantly. The financial support system was gone. Then came the hard part. Her stuff. All of it. I had a huge stack of new flat-packed moving boxes in the garage that I'd bought for this exact purpose. I spent the next 3 hours systematically erasing her from my home. I wasn't angry or sad. I felt a strange sense of detachment, like I was an estate manager clearing out the belongings of a person who had moved on. I cleared out her massive walk-in closet, her side of the bathroom vanity, her home office space, every piece of clothing, every shoe, every bottle of expensive junk. I was systematic. I sealed each box with tape and stacked it neatly in the garage. The house started to feel like mine again. It was quiet. It was orderly. At 3 a.m., I sent a 2-word email to my lawyer. File it. Then I went to bed and slept soundly for the first time in a year. The calls started the next morning. First, a cheerful, oblivious one from the hotel. She thought I'd left for work. An hour later, an angry, confused one. Her card was declined when she tried to pay for her and Ben's room service breakfast. An hour after that, pure panic. She was on the front porch and her key wasn't working. I decided to answer that one. "Tom, what is going on? I'm locked out," she screamed. "I know," I said. "What do you mean, you know? This isn't funny. Let me in." "No," I said, my voice completely flat. "I heard what you said last night, Olivia. I heard you tell everyone your marriage doesn't count because I'm boring. So consider this me making your life a little more exciting. You're free now. You don't have a boring husband anymore. And you don't have his boring house either." She started denying it, of course. It was a joke. I was being crazy. I had misunderstood. "It doesn't matter," I said. "It's done. All your things are in 42 boxes in the garage. A moving company is coming tomorrow to take them to a storage unit. I paid for 3 months. I'll text you the info when it's done. The bank account is empty. The credit card is canceled. The divorce papers will be served on Monday. We're finished." I could hear Ben in the background, telling her I was bluffing, telling her I was just being dramatic. He had driven her home, her knight in shining armor. "You can't do this," she cried. "I already did," I said. "Have a nice life." I hung up and blocked both their numbers. Phase 1 was complete. Update 2. Of course, they didn't just accept it. People like Olivia and Ben never face consequences quietly. They have to create a narrative where they are the victims. For a few hours, they just lingered. My security camera caught them trying the doors, Ben posturing and trying to look tough for the camera. It was pathetic. He even tried to shoulder check the front door once before apparently realizing it was solid wood and he wasn't in a movie. The next day, when the movers came, they sat across the street in Ben's car and watched the whole thing. I made a point of going out to get the mail, then spent about 20 minutes weeding my front garden bed, just ignoring them completely. My total lack of reaction seemed to infuriate them more than anything else. I could feel their eyes on me, but I refused to give them the satisfaction of a confrontation. With the direct approach failing, they pivoted to a campaign of information warfare. This was Olivia's area of expertise. Within a day, the whispers started. I was the villain, the jealous, controlling husband who couldn't handle her having a male friend. The story they concocted was that I'd had a breakdown at the wedding, imagined things, and flew into a violent rage, kicking her out of her home. It was a well-crafted story, and some people bought it. The first direct hit came from Olivia's mother. She left me a long, tearful voicemail about how disappointed she was in me, how Olivia was a wreck, and how I needed to be a man and fix the mess I had made. I saved the voicemail, but didn't reply. Then I got texts from some of Olivia's aunts, angry, accusatory messages. I was a monster. I was abusive. They were going to make sure everyone knew the truth. They were trying to isolate me. They didn't realize I had already isolated them. I knew I needed proof. Hard proof. A wedding is a public event, and in 2025, everything is filmed. I didn't want to deal with the official videographer. I thought about who would have the most footage. The bride's younger cousin, a girl named Maya. She had been glued to her phone all night, filming everything for her Instagram. I found her online and sent her a message. I told her I was putting together a little memory book for the bride and groom and that I'd love to get her clips from the reception. She was happy to help. She sent me a link to a folder with all her videos. I spent an hour going through them, and then I found it. A video of some people on the dance floor. But in the background, perfectly framed and perfectly audible, was the conversation at the bar. The woman asking the question. Olivia's high-pitched, fake laugh. And her voice crystal clear, saying, "Not really anyway. It doesn't count when he's boring." It was my silver bullet. I clipped the video. Just that 10-second piece. I wasn't going to post it for the world to see. That wasn't the plan. The plan was surgical. I sent a group text. The recipients were a very specific list of people. The bride and groom, Olivia's parents, her sister, and Ben's long-term girlfriend, Emily. I had her number from a dinner party. The text was short. "I know you've all been hearing a lot of stories. I just want the truth to be clear. This is a clip from the wedding on Saturday. The audio is what's important. This is why my marriage is over. I attached the video and hit send. Then I put my phone on silent and went for a long walk. Final update. It's been 6 months. The divorce is final. My lawyer said it was one of the quickest he'd ever seen. A video of your wife publicly renouncing your marriage tends to remove all her bargaining power. The video didn't just end my marriage, it ended their whole world. The bride and groom were furious with Olivia for creating such a toxic drama at their wedding and cut her off completely. They even sent me a separate apology, which was a classy move. Her parents were the real tea. They are obsessed with their public image, and the video of their daughter behaving so crassly was the ultimate humiliation. The story I heard was that they confronted her with the video, and when she couldn't deny it, they completely withdrew their support, both emotional and financial. The lawyer she had hired on their dime was promptly fired. She was told to get a job and stand on her own 2 feet for the first time in her life. Ben got the worst of it. His girlfriend, Emily, was a firestorm. She didn't just dump him, she went public. She posted the video clip on her own social media, tagging both of them. She wrote a long post about the years of lies and disrespect. She torched them. The story went viral in our social circle. Their smear campaign against me was instantly forgotten, replaced by a public shaming of them. I also heard from a friend that Emily's father, who's a prominent local businessman, made a few calls. Ben's sales career, which relied heavily on reputation and networking, is now in shambles. Olivia's life, from what I've pieced together, has completely imploded. She has no money, her parents are barely speaking to her, and her friends have scattered. Ben, now a social outcast, wants nothing to do with her. She had to get a job as a waitress to support herself. She's living in a small apartment with 3 roommates. The exciting life she thought she was entitled to is gone. I sold the house. I wanted a fresh start. I bought a smaller place, a condo downtown with a great view. It's my space. It's quiet. But the best revenge wasn't kicking her out. It was simply showing people the truth. She and Ben built their entire relationship on a foundation of lies and disrespect. All I did was hold up a mirror. They couldn't stand the reflection. She called me boring. Maybe I am. But my life is stable. It's honest. It's peaceful. Her life, the one she chose, is a chaotic mess. She woke up alone in that hotel room, but the truth is, she'd been alone in our marriage for a long time. I just finally made it official. In today's Reddit story, my fiancé mocked my job in front of her friends. She smirked. Oh, he just works in a pathetic cubicle all day. They laughed, so I played along. This morning, she showed up at my office to apologize, only to find out I'd been promoted and moved across the country without her. Looking back, I should have walked away that night. The moment Mia threw me under the bus in front of her friends, I should have seen it for what it was. Not a slip of the tongue, not a joke that landed poorly, but a revelation, a mask slipping, the truth spilling out before she could catch it. She didn't respect me, not as a man, not as a partner, and definitely not as someone worth standing beside. But I didn't leave, not right away. Instead, I smiled. I laughed along. I let her believe she had won, that her words had rolled off me like water. I let her think I was weak. Because people like Mia, they only learn the hard way, and I was about to teach her the most painful lesson of her life. The night started out fine. Mia had invited me to a dinner party at her friend Jessica's apartment. It was one of those upper-middle-class get-togethers where everyone tried to outshine each other, who had the best career, the best stories, the best vacation plans. I never particularly liked these events, but I went because Mia wanted me there. Or at least I thought she did. Everything was normal at first. Wine poured, laughter filled the air, small talk bounced between couples about new job offers and promotions. Then, somewhere between the second bottle of wine and Jessica's long-winded story about her miserable trip to Dubai, someone turned to Mia and asked, "So, what does Michael do again?" I didn't even look up at first. I assumed she'd say what she always said, something vague but respectful. Oh, he works in finance. Oh, he's in corporate. Something that, while not exactly glowing, at least acknowledged that I had built a solid career for myself. But that's not what she said. She smirked, swirled her wine, and let out a small, almost condescending laugh. "Oh, Michael? He just pushes papers in some tiny little cubicle all day. The room erupted into laughter. Jessica let out a dramatic, exaggerated gasp. Wait, so he's like a corporate secretary? Mia laughed harder. I mean, basically, he sits there, typing away on spreadsheets while the real power players make the big moves. I felt my stomach tighten, not because of the words themselves, but because of the way she said them. The smugness in her tone. The way her friends fed off of it, as if my career, my hard work was a punchline. She was mocking me, right to my face. And the worst part? She didn't even hesitate. It was instinctual, natural, as if deep down, this was how she had always seen me. I could have called her out right then. I could have embarrassed her the way she embarrassed me. But I didn't. Instead, I forced a small chuckle, took a sip of my drink, and leaned back in my chair. Yeah, I said, my voice calm, controlled. Just a boring little cubicle job. Mia glanced at me then, something flickering in her eyes. Was it victory? Satisfaction? A mix of both? Whatever it was, it made me sick. But I kept smiling, because I already knew she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. And soon, she'd realize it too. Mia's laughter from that night stayed with me. It wasn't just the insult, it was the way she said it. The way her voice dipped into that mocking tone, the way her lips curled when she called my career basic. It was like I wasn't a person to her, just a placeholder. A safe bet until something better came along. And that's when it hit me. Mia wasn't with me because she loved me. She was with me because I was convenient, stable. The kind of guy who would pay for nice dinners, plan responsible vacations, cover emergencies. A man she could rely on until she found an upgrade. So I decided right then and there, I was leaving. Not loudly, not angrily, but in a way she'd never forget. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't argue. Instead, I did something that threw her off completely. I acted completely normal. If anything, I was even sweeter. I kissed her on the forehead before bed. I asked about her day. I cooked dinner. I even took her out to a fancy restaurant the following weekend. Because the last thing I wanted, for her to see this coming. What Mia didn't know, what she had never bothered to ask, was that my job was about to change drastically. For the past 6 months, my company had been restructuring. There was a major internal shift happening, and I had been working closely with upper management. My so-called pathetic cubicle job was about to turn into a high-ranking corporate role with a massive salary increase. And the best part? The position was based across the country. I had known for weeks that I was the top candidate. My boss, Mr. Thompson, had all but told me, "Michael, it's yours if you want it." But instead of celebrating with Mia, I kept it to myself, because I knew. If she found out I was about to become the kind of man she always wanted to date, successful, powerful, highly paid, she'd latch onto me even tighter. She'd start pretending to respect me again. She'd reel me back in, and I wasn't going to let that happen, so I kept my mouth shut. And instead, I let her dig her own grave. Mia thought she was smart. She thought she could play me in the background while she lined up her next option. I noticed the shift a few weeks after the dinner party. She started texting more, but not to me. She started working late, but had no extra work to show for it. And then, she started bringing up Liam. Liam was her new coworker. He was younger than me, worked in sales, and had a flashier, more exciting career. The first time she mentioned him, it was casual. "Liam's so funny, you'd like him." The second time, "Liam just bought a new car. It's insane. Like full leather interior, top speed, everything." And the third time, "You should take notes from Liam. He's got big ambitions." I nearly laughed. She thought she was subtly testing the waters, seeing how I'd react. She thought she had time to explore her options before deciding who to settle for. She had no idea that I had already made my decision. I was done. And in a few weeks, she was going to wake up and realize I was already gone. The moment my promotion was official, I started putting things in motion. I didn't just pack my things and leave. That would have been too easy. Instead, I made sure Mia had no idea what was happening until it was too late. I quietly removed her from my finances. No more automatic transfers for rent or utilities. I canceled our shared subscriptions. Spotify? Gone. Netflix? Disconnected. I told my landlord I was terminating the lease, but I didn't tell Mia. I stopped bringing up future plans. No more next vacation. Talk. No more discussions about engagement photos. And most importantly, I started distancing myself emotionally. Not enough for her to get suspicious, just enough for her to start feeling uneasy. I let her believe I was still the backup plan she could fall back on. That way, when I disappeared, it would hurt so much more. A week before I was set to leave, Mia was in full comfort mode. She had completely stopped hiding her behavior. I overheard her on the phone with Jessica, laughing about how Michael's sweet, but let's be real, he's not going anywhere. She truly believed she had me locked down. She was still talking to Liam, but she hadn't fully jumped ship yet, because she thought I was her safety net. But what happens when you bet on the wrong horse? You lose. And Mia was about to lose everything. Mia woke up that morning without a single clue that her entire world had just collapsed. She stretched lazily, grabbed her phone, and started scrolling through social media. Another mindless routine, another day of feeling secure in the cushioned life she thought she had. Somewhere in the back of her mind, she probably still believed she was juggling options. Keep Michael around a little longer, just in case. See where things with Liam went. If all else failed, she could always reel Michael back in. She had no idea she was already out of options. That today was the day everything came crashing down. And the first sign? She wasn't going to realize it until she walked right into it. It started small. The first red flag was her Uber app. She tried to order a ride to work, but when she clicked confirm payment, the screen flashed, payment declined. She frowned. That was strange. My card was still linked to the account, wasn't it? She tried again, payment declined. A flicker of annoyance, maybe it was just a glitch. She sighed and switched to her personal card instead. It went through, and just like that, the thought disappeared. Because Mia was the kind of person who never worried about small inconveniences. She assumed everything would always be taken care of. But this wasn't a small inconvenience. It was the first crack in the foundation. And soon, the whole thing was going to collapse. Mia strolled into her office feeling completely normal. She wasn't stressed, she wasn't worried. She still believed her life was perfectly intact. And that was the beauty of it. She had no idea what was waiting for her. No idea that she was about to step into the most humiliating moment of her life. She decided right then that she'd do something bold. She was going to swing by my office, not because she missed me, not because she felt guilty, but because she wanted to make sure I was still there, still waiting in the background, still an option. She probably planned to walk in, flash me a smile, maybe drop a casual, "Hey, I've been thinking about us," to keep me interested. She was expecting the same old Michael, but what she got instead was a total nightmare. When she arrived at the corporate building, she walked straight past the receptionist with the kind of entitled confidence that only comes from never facing consequences. She made her way to my department, but when she turned the corner, she stopped dead in her tracks. My desk was empty, not messy, not temporarily unoccupied, empty, cleared out, gone. And in my place, some new guy was sitting there, typing away. Mia blinked. She felt something she hadn't felt in years, panic. She glanced around, looking for something, anything that made sense. Then she spotted one of my old coworkers, Kevin. "Hey," she said, forcing a casual smile. "Where's Michael?" Kevin looked up, surprised to see her. "Oh, he's gone. Left last week." Mia's stomach twisted. "Gone? What do you mean gone?" Kevin shrugged. "He got promoted, big role, moved across the country. He's already in the new office by now." Mia froze. She felt the blood drain from her face. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. Michael? Gone? Just like that? Without saying a word, without even telling her? No. She forced a laugh, shaking her head. "Wait, no, that doesn't make sense. He would have told me." Kevin gave her a weird look. "I mean, he seemed pretty busy with the new job. Maybe he just didn't get a chance." That's when it hit her. He didn't tell her on purpose. Michael had known. He had known for weeks, and he had never said a word. He had let her sit there, thinking she still had control, thinking she could still play her little game. And now, he was gone. Without her. Without looking back. Without giving her a single chance to stop him. Her heart started pounding. She needed to fix this. Now, she needed to talk to him. So she pulled out her phone, opened our messages, and started typing. "Hey, I just stopped by your office. I had no idea you were moving. Can we talk?" She hit send. No response. She waited. Minutes passed. Nothing. Her stomach clenched. She tried calling, straight to voicemail. That's when her hand started shaking, because for the first time in her life, she realized she had completely lost. Mia spent the next 2 hours spiraling. She tried texting me again. Michael, please, call me. I need to talk to you. Still nothing. That's when the rage kicked in. She tried convincing herself this was a misunderstanding, that I couldn't have actually left her behind, that I'd at least have the decency to explain myself. But then, her phone buzzed. A single message. From me. Don't worry, Mia. I found a better opportunity. You understand, right? Her breath hitched, because she knew exactly what that was. I had just thrown her own words back in her face, and I hadn't just left her, I had erased her. She tried calling again, voicemail. She sent another text. Michael, please, don't do this. But she already knew. I was gone. And this time, I wasn't coming back. Mia had always been the type of woman who thought she could talk her way out of anything. She had spent her whole life coasting, getting by on charm, good looks, and an uncanny ability to convince people they needed her. She had never faced real consequences before. But that morning, when she read my final text, she realized something that made her stomach drop. This time, there was no fixing it. No smooth apology, no well-timed tears, no fake promises that could make me come back. She had gambled, and she had lost everything. After I left, Mia spent the next few days spiraling. She started with anger. I could picture it. Her pacing her apartment, tossing her phone onto the couch, ranting to herself. She probably told herself I was being dramatic or childish, that I'd come to my senses. She convinced herself that if she just played her cards right, she could still regain control. She just had to get people on her side. So she turned to her friends. But instead of support, she got a brutal wake-up call. Mia had always been the queen bee of her social circle. She was the one they envied, the one who had the stable guy, the planned-out future. But now, she was just another girl who got left behind. She called Jessica first. You will not believe what Michael just did. Jessica yawned into the phone. What, he finally left? Mia's breath hitched. What? Jessica sighed. Come on, Mia. Everyone saw this coming except you. You walked all over him for years. Guess he finally woke up. Mia froze. She tried to argue, tried to spin the story, but Jessica wasn't interested. Neither was Claire. When Mia called her next, she got an even colder response. Mia, why are you acting surprised? You treated him like shh. He did what any smart man would do. Mia stared at her phone, shaking. For the first time, she wasn't the one controlling the narrative. Her friends weren't rushing to defend her. They were looking at her the way she had looked at so many other people before. Like she wasn't worth the effort. And that's when she realized something that made her stomach turn. Her social status? It had always been tied to me. She wasn't the girl with the amazing personality or the strong career. She was the girl who had a secure, high-earning fiancé. The moment I disappeared, she had nothing left to brag about. And one by one, people started distancing themselves. Because Mia wasn't fun when she wasn't on top. And now, she was at the very bottom. By the end of the week, Mia had lost everything she thought she could rely on. Liam, the guy she had been flirting with, wasn't interested anymore. Now that she wasn't taken, and therefore more desirable, he moved on. Her friends stopped returning her texts. They had better things to do. She realized she had no career of her own to fall back on. She had spent years coasting on my stability, never bothering to think about her own future. She had never been alone before. And now, she was terrified. So she did the only thing she had left. She tried to crawl back. It started with a text. Hey, I miss you. I ignored it. A few hours later, another one. Michael, please. I know I messed up. I was stupid. Can we just talk? Left on read. Then, the call came. I didn't answer. Then another, and another. By the time I checked my phone the next morning, she had called me 32 times. But I didn't care, because I knew what she really missed. It wasn't me. It was the security I gave her. And that was gone forever. By the third day, the messages slowed down. Then, finally, she sent one last text. Michael, please? I don't need anything from you. I just need to hear your voice. Just once. I read it, paused for a moment, and then I deleted it. No response, no closure, just silence. Because Mia had spent years looking down on me, treating me like I was some backup plan, some safe little option. And now, she was the one left behind. She was the one watching me move forward. And me? I was already gone.